There has been this historical view of what healthcare, should be from an employer perspective. If you look at what's happened historically, has been this evolution from what was known as like wellness, which is more about the absence of disease in the body, very physical, to well-being, which is a much broader term and actually far more important.
Welcome to the Business of Healthcare podcast from the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management. The center is based at the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. The show, like the center, brings together business leaders and other forward thinkers to discuss how best to meet the challenges of a rapidly changing, increasingly complex healthcare industry. I'm your host, Dr. Bob Kaiser, Director of the Master's Program in Healthcare Leadership and Management for Professionals. Today, we're fortunate to have Lorna Borenstein, CEO and founder of Grokker, the Wellbeing Engagement Solution. She's also the author of It's Personal, the Business Case for Caring. Welcome to the Business of Healthcare podcast.
So good to be with you, Bob.
Well, this is going to be a very fun and enlightening discussion. I wish we had way longer than our typical podcast time, but I'm so glad to have you here on the Business of Healthcare podcast. The topic of well-being, it reaches deeply into our lives within so many dimensions, and sadly, and oftentimes, it's missing in what we call healthcare. So I want to make sure that we share with our audience the Grocker story and your aha moment that led to its creation, and then discuss your recent book, It's Personal, the Business Case for Caring. First off, congratulations on Grokker being recognized as one of the 100 best small workplaces by Fortune magazine. The name Grokker, let's get clarity on its meaning, Lorna.
Well, for any sci-fi buffs listening, they will know where it comes from. For those who aren't as familiar with the writings of Robert Heinlein, one of my favorite books growing up that my dad gave me was a book called Stranger in a Strange Land. And in it, one of the protagonists, Michael Valentine Smith, is human but raised on Mars by Martians. And the word in Martian means to soak in through a shared connection, the experience of another being. And really, it's about being transformed through that connection. And so to be a Grokker is to be transformed through connection. And that's why I wanted the company to be called Grokker, because that's what we're all about.
Well, Lorna, you have an interesting background in technology. I know that you were a lawyer early on, working the long, hard hours. No one's ever left the firm, remember? That was a great movie, Working Long, Hard Hours. But you escaped into Hewlett-Packard and eBay and Yahoo. How did that help formulate where you got to in forming Grokker?
Well, I never really expected to start my own business, frankly. My parents are both immigrants. I grew up in this very immigrant household where it was about education. And you had to have a profession. It could be medicine, accounting, or law. So I followed in my parents' footsteps. My mother was a judge. My father was a lawyer. I became a lawyer. And I very quickly realized what I really loved was technology, and I wanted to be a client. It was much better to be a client than to be the lawyer. But, I was young. I got married young. We had no money. I was really supporting our family. I was actually putting my husband through business school. And I went to talk to one of my professors and I said, hey, I'm doing this law thing, but I really want to work in tech. What can I do? And she said, hey, why don't you go get a job at the most prestigious law firm that has tech clients and work on their stuff and you'll get headhunted out of there. And that's actually what I did and how I ended up at HP. Luckily for me and for you, because we're both ex-HPers, that they hired me away. And what changed my life, honestly, was going from, when I was at the law firm, I had a 2,100 billable hour requirement, which is mildly insane. And I had a young child. My eldest daughter was a baby at the time. And to leave work at night at 7:30, I would put my blazer around the back of my chair, get a hot cup of coffee, leave it on my desk, put on the night lamp and uncap a highlighter and leave it on my desk and sneak out at 7:30 at night. So when the senior partners would do their rounds at 8 p.m., they would think I'd just gone to the bathroom and not realize I had gone home to rush to see my baby before bedtime. I mean, that's no way to live, Bob. And then I got to HP. And at HP, my first day on the job, my boss came by my cube. First of all, a cube. Nobody had cubes, right? Where's my mahogany door? And she came by my cube at lunch. She said, hey, do you want to come to the gym with me and work out? And that just blew my mind. My boss, she was the general counsel, was asking me if I wanted to do something good for myself on like company time. Like, you actually value my well-being and you want to do it with me? This is sanctioned behavior? Like, what? That had a major impact on me. Like, wow, you care about more than what I'm going to deliver in work product. You care about all of me. And that really took me on this journey of looking to work for people who are going to care about my whole development, not just my work product, but all of me. And thank heavens I got to work at HP for those, 4+ years, because it gave me a taste for just how you need to invest in people and how you reap the rewards of that, just not only in the bottom line, but in the loyalty. I still, to this day, I'm sitting here in my home office and I have an HP printer because I will only buy HP printers to this day. Because long after when you graduate from those companies, you are loyal because they cared for you as a whole human being.
Wow, that's quite a statement there, Lorna. I know that I actually had the opportunity to meet Dave Packard and Bill Hewlett and talk about cubicles. Yeah, they had black and white tiles on their floor there in Palo Alto. But, what they did is exactly what you talked about. They cared about you. There was trust and respect. They expected you to work as a team. Integrity was everything. You weren't going to do anything wrong. And they encouraged you to be innovative. They wanted you to create things and work together. So those values really helped formulate your direction early on in your development then.
Oh, completely. And so, after I'd been at HP for quite a number of years, and I had moved over from law into business because they trusted you. And so I said, hey, I'd like to work on the business side. So they taught me product management, product marketing. I mean, all of this stuff that, let me then become part of the birth of the internet, really. So I ended up resigning from HP in order to start my own internet consulting practice. And luckily, one day I get a phone call from a former colleague of mine whom I had become friends with at HP. We acquired his company. And he said, hey, I'm working for this startup you've never heard of. We're starting to launch international businesses. We'd like to launch a business in Canada. I think you'd be great for it. And it was this little company selling Beanie Babies called eBay. And I said, well, okay, why not take a risk and try this out? That was a good decision. And I ended up, riding that rocket ship that ended up leading me back to Silicon Valley, yet again. And through that, again, quite a few years at eBay, and then eventually deciding it was time to leave eBay. And with my CEO, Meg Whitman's help, getting introduced to Yahoo and getting hired on at Yahoo to go run a very large global business there, and then doing a bunch of other roles at Yahoo. And again, it was always about what's the next big thing, but who is going to invest in me? Who is going to help me all the way up? Not just mentors, advocates. And there's a big difference between mentors and advocates in my book. Mentors are great. You have coffee with them once a quarter, and yeah, they got some sound advice. Advocates are the people who are looking out for the next opportunity for you and pulling you up and sometimes pushing you up, even when you don't think that you're quite ready for them. They're watching out for the things that they're going to, find for you to do next. And I'll never forget when I joined Yahoo, my boss was the chief operating officer, Dan Rosenzweig. Dan said to me, my first job was running this $100 million online dating business, Yahoo Personals. My mom was thrilled. She thought I'd find my sister a husband. And she found one on her own, by the way. And he said to me, don't get too comfortable. I have bigger things in store for you. And I thought, what? That's just like sunshine that you blow up, someone's skirt. But he meant it. And in less than a year, he already gave me a bigger portfolio to manage and more responsibility. And right, because he was looking out for me. He was, my advocate. And then after I left Yahoo, I went and I joined a public company as the president of Move, which owned Realtor.com and a whole portfolio of real estate assets. And there, one of my advocates was on my board of directors, Jerry Laybourne. She was the founder of Oxygen Media and Nickelodeon, Nick Jr. She's, in the Television Hall of Fame. She's amazing. When I resigned from that role, she said, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, I'm going to retire. And she said, no. You're going to take a much needed break. And then when you're done, you are never going to work for anybody else ever again. And I thought, what? I hadn't even considered starting a business. And the seed she planted in my, head was what, while I was on this multi-year sabbatical, gave me that initial thought, which led me to Grokker because, I have 3 kids and by some miracle, the same husband. And, I was taking the kids out of school for 1 to 3 months at a time, traveling somewhere in the world, making up for all of those lost years when I had been a road warrior and, working this whirlwind, amazing tech career. And what I realized when you are alone with children, and my kids were kind of elementary and middle school aged, and you have no help, you know what you don't have, Bob? You have absolutely no time to take care of yourself. I couldn't get to the gym. I couldn't get to the yoga studio. I didn't have time for mindfulness. I couldn't even find healthy recipes to cook, right? This was, I was in the worst shape of my life. And I thought, well, this blows. I need something to help me. And I thought, all right, I have a first generation iPad. Let me find video. And I tried to find videos that could help me while the kids were napping or, playing a board game. And all I could find was just, pardon my French, crap on YouTube. I could not find what I needed, which was expert-led, premium, like HBO quality video with some type of community so I wouldn't feel so alone and so isolated. And I just couldn't find it. And I got really frustrated. And so I did what any reasonable person would do. I went for a walk and I yelled at my husband. And I said, YouTube is broken. There's nothing for well-being. I know what people need. It's what I need. It's what any busy working person needs. And it doesn't exist. And he said, well, stop yelling at me and go build it. And,
so Lorna, tell our audience what Grokker does.
Basically what we do is, we help, large corporations, companies like CVS Health, Target, Delta Airlines, Pfizer, GE, essentially to help their employees move more, sleep better, eat healthier, reduce their stress, improve their financial health. And we do it by having an incredible abundance of expert-led premium video across a wide variety of categories that are on demand, on any device, whether it's your phone, your tablet, your connected TV, it's integrated with your trackers, and it's got these very smart gamification so that it doesn't make you, the member do the work. We do the work for you. We'll put everything in your calendar and send you a notification. We'll recommend what you need to do next. We will let you get support from other members in the community, and you can ask any expert a question and they'll respond to you in real time. So it's almost like having a combination of a personal trainer in your pocket, but a community to help you along the way. And
almost like a life coach in some respects, because it's just not your physical well-being, but you're, like you said, you're trying to cover the mindfulness, your nutrition, trying to make sure that you're exercising and sleeping and all those kind of things. But do you do this just for big companies? You provide this as a service for big companies, or how far does it go?
We started off as consumers. So this is, things that you don't expect, right? We started the business off as direct to consumer. In fact, we were an Apple TV launch partner. We have Comcast on demand channels, Amazon Prime channels, Dish, we're in Europe with Sky. It all started as consumer. And then companies started writing in our customer support queue. We were getting emails from companies asking us if we could sell them Grocker as an employee benefit. And even though I'd worked for all those amazing companies, Bob, no one had ever asked me to sell them anything. So I thought, I better pay attention to this. And that was when the enterprise side of the business began. So no, we have small and medium-sized businesses as well as large. So it's really individuals, even nonprofits. But the core of what we do is for large enterprises.
This episode is brought to you by the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, the definitive resource for healthcare management education in North Texas. The center is based in the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. It plays a unique role in training the next generation of healthcare leaders to meet local, regional, and national demands. The Jindal School uses its strengths in accounting, administration, finance, marketing, and information systems to educate highly qualified personnel for healthcare administration and executive leadership positions. The center is home to 7 healthcare leadership and management programs, including undergraduate and graduate programs, as well as executive programs for physicians and working professionals. For more information, visit us online at jindal.utdallas.edu/healthcare.
So Lorna, I want to try to take some of these concepts that you're talking about, well-being, and really look at it with the perspective of the healthcare system that we have. You would think that a healthy nation would have less healthcare. And it seems that we measure process more in our healthcare system than what we do to measure health. And it seems like the business of healthcare collides with the purpose that being healthy. And you would think that the healthcare system would be the most caring place on the planet, but uniformly, I don't think it's distributed. I'm not saying that we don't have caring people in healthcare, but it's not broken down from the top. And I think that the return on investment model is broken in the healthcare system. And I think that's what you're talking about in your book, that there is a return on investment for the business case for caring in the business marketplace. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're hitting on 2 really important concepts. The first is there has been this historical view of what healthcare, should be from an employer perspective. If you look at what's happened historically, has been this evolution from what was known as like wellness, which is more about the absence of disease in the body, very physical, to well-being, which is a much broader term and actually far more important when you look at truly what is going to affect, if you're looking at just from dollars and cents, to how you reduce the overall cost and the burden on the system. And no matter how you look at it, right, the US spends far more dollars, per person on a GDP basis for healthcare overall, but spends far less per person holistically taking care of its citizens. So when you look at what's happened to this first piece again, look back to the beginning in the corporations of when companies started paying for healthcare, right? And the earliest companies that did this were companies like American Express and Johnson & Johnson and others early in the 1940s, 50s. And it was really just about physical health. Go for a physical checkup. It's all about quit smoking, things very, very physical. And they were also, at the time, these companies were all run by white men in blue suits, and the employees were all 75% white men. And so the population was different, and the focus was different. And now you fast forward, you have the year 2000, where you have 50-50 gender split of workers, no longer the 75-25 split, and the complexion, the makeup, the demographics of the workforce has changed completely as well. You have less than 50%. If you look at, millennials and Gen Zers, less than 50% of them are Caucasian now in the US. And so, you've got a whole different population, and then think about our millennials and our Gen Zers who were raised. I've raised a couple of them, actually 3 of them to be precise. They were raised to get a trophy for coming in 8th. They were raised to actually have a say in what they did on weekends. They got to pick what they had for dinner. Their opinions mattered. They expect to be cared for. And you know what? They expect their employers to care for them. A whole different world. And so you have this population that's also the most stressed workforce ever. Is it just because we're measuring stress? I don't know. This year Grokker has, we have our Grokker Innovation Labs division that does all of our research. And 80% of US workers in our 2021 State of Stress report being stressed, right? 80%. And the younger you are, the more stressed out you are. So if you're 60 plus, you only reported 61% being stressed out. If you're 19 to 24, it was at 83%. But even 61% is very high. And everywhere in between. Very, very stressed out. 37% reporting that they're sleep deprived. 25% reported that they'd increase their dependence on alcohol and controlled substances to cope with that stress. People are stressed out, Bob. You cannot treat physical symptoms alone. You have to think about sleep, mindfulness, and nutrition. They all play together. One of the things I write about in the book, if you want to treat obesity, right, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, use whatever term you want, and you don't think about sleep, well, you're missing the boat, because the production of 2 of the key hormones, the one that controls the feeling of being satiated, and the hormone that controls hunger, right? Those are directly impacted by sleep. So if you want someone to lose weight, but you're not helping them with their sleep, you are going to be woefully sorry, because if they're not sleeping well, they are going to eat more and they're not going to feel satisfied when they do eat.
You're talking about cortisol, aren't you?
I'm talking actually about ghrelin, and there's cortisol as well.
Yes.
But the point is, like, medically, we now know sleep, mood, nutrition, and exercise all play together to help you in maintaining healthy weight. So we have to treat the whole person, not just the physical aspects. And that's why, when I created Grokker, and I did a lot of research, and, I understand a lot about what it takes to help someone be their best. We have the trademark, be a better you. That's the goal. How can we help you wherever you are, meet you where you're ready to begin? And with healthy nudges, get you to just take that first step, then that second step, then that third step, in order to create the intrinsic motivation and rewards to hopefully help you build the healthy habits to live a healthier lifestyle.
Right. I've read your book, Lorna. I really enjoyed it. There's so many things in there that I just, harmonize with. I just resonate with. You've got the 8331. So share with us what that is.
All right. So it's the 8331 stability framework. And I created this because I feel like my life, which is super busy, as I'm sure everybody's is, but I needed some type of a framework as an early warning system to help me easily stay on top of feeling grounded and balanced, and to help me get back sort of in balance with myself when the wind starts blowing. And so if you think of your life as a tent with 4 flaps, the 4 flaps, when they're staked to the ground, maintain stability. And the 4 flaps are sleep, exercise, nutrition, and fun. And so your numbers may be different from mine. I need to feel grounded and balanced and be my best self. 8 hours of sleep a night. I need 3 sweaty workouts, hikes, meditation sessions, whatever it is. And I actually consider meditation to be a form of exercise. It's a mind exercise, but it's exercise nonetheless. I need 3 nutritious meals a day. I cannot live on power bars. Believe me, I have tried. And I need 1 fun thing to look forward to every single week with family and friends. So my numbers are 8331. And what I do is, when things get turbulent, right? When I'm traveling for business, when I have something going on in my life, when my mother was ill with cancer, she's fine now, thank heavens. But when she was going through her bout of cancer, and I had to take her for her surgery and move her into my home, and that was, it just wreaked havoc on my life. Things get out of balance. And so I go back every week and check in on my numbers. Right? If I'm not feeling my best, if I'm snappy, if I'm gaining weight, if I'm just feeling like out of sorts, where are my numbers? If one of them is out of whack, I'm not sleeping as much because I'm traveling. As long as I have my 3 workouts, my 3 square meals, and 1 fun thing to do, okay, I'm not going to collapse. I'm okay. I can hang on. If 2 of those come down, I'm sorry, I cannot white knuckle it for very long. And so it's just proactively helping myself be accountable. And it's a very simple framework. And so one of my kids, she needs an artistic outlet. She needs her music. That's an important flap for hers. She doesn't need the exercise, but she needs the artistic outlet. So her framework is slightly different, but she has the framework. And that's what she checks in with. And there's lots of research to show, as long as you have a goal, you are so much more likely to stick with it than not having any goal at all.
Well, you've done a lot of research in your book. Years ago, I was involved with the Conference Board, a 100-year-old organization. And as you know, they deal with compensation and HR issues. And they started up 4 years ago, a whole session on well-being. And we brought in chief medical officers from all the who's who big companies, including the one I worked for. And we all sat around and we scratched our heads and we said, what is well-being? What is well-being? And I come to your book and you have the 6 dimensions of well-being referenced in there. You had some really great guest perspectives, and Aetna presented this. And this is exactly what we were trying to come up with and identify: the physical health, the emotional health, the financial wellness, financial security, social connections, purpose, and then the character strengths. That's so well defined in your examples here. And I think that's what really makes the case. In your book, you really talk about the business of healthcare in your book, and you build the case for the return on investment. And I think you do it by building the case, selling the plan, and then creating the culture. So why don't you kind of tell us the highlights of the book there, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah. So, I mean, the premise was I was meeting with a lot of CHROs, Bob, who kept asking me, can you help me write the business case to present to my CFO and to the C-suite to help them understand, why this is important for the company? And they're really it came down to helping them explain the financial, the human, and the brand cost of not caring for your employees. And so the way that I wrote the book was in these 3 sections, right? So building the case, and to build the case for caring, it's really understanding the direct connection between employee well-being and engagement and how that affects the bottom line of the company. So, I talk about how employee work expectations have dramatically changed. We talked a little bit about millennials and Gen Zers, right? If you got a trophy for coming in 8th, if you graduated from preschool, you're different in what you expect from your employer, right? Your review better be really good and tell me how wonderful I am. And I might want to get promoted every 6 months. You need to care about me and treat me differently. But it's also about, they think in stints, not careers. So as an employer, you realize that the new world of employment, the employee is in the driver's seat. It's not the employer. And it doesn't matter if you're in a recession or not. They understand, if you think about it, right? Employees today are not going to achieve the same level of financial success that their parents did, which is sad, but it's true. And so they're more worried. They have a fear of missing out of opportunities elsewhere. They're not at all risk averse. So they're going to drop you, in an instant, to go across the street and go work somewhere else where it looks sunnier, where people look happier. And so a paycheck is not going to be enough of a reason to keep them sticking around. And so I write in the first section, which is building the case, about the financial, human, and the brand costs of not caring and why you have to care. And I also show the financial case because the cost of turnover is so exorbitant. For a $45,000 a year salaried employee at a company of 10,000 employees, if you just have 1% voluntary attrition, it will cost you $2 million a year extra. And, when companies begin to understand that, they're like, whoa, this really matters. The second section of the book is about selling the plan. How do you then sell into your organization how you're going to make this something that matters in the company? And how do you transform culture in order to help achieve business goals and performance? I talk about how you find the influencers in your organization, about stating the inarguable, focusing on the unique vision, the approach, the solution, what you have that's defensible, and the all-important question of why now, which is the single most important question when you're trying to make a case in an organization. And then the third section of the book is about creating the culture. And that, for me, is what I love to do the most, is help these organizations and these leaders, even managers in their own teams, figure out how they're going to create these cultures that are high performance cultures of caring, transformative cultures that deliver outsized results just by creating a culture. And in there, helping you understand what roadblocks you're going to face when trying to implement these, holistic well-being focused cultures, and examples of which companies are leading the pack and how they're doing it, whether you have big budgets or little budgets. The mind-body social connections for workers, and then actionable tools that managers and employers can use to help employees navigate this, next normal, because it's not really a new normal anymore, and maintaining a sense of connection. And then helping you think about your employee value proposition, right? I mean, it is incredibly important to help, your people understand what your value prop is for them, not just for your customers. And then it's all about, making it simple and what's the first step, and then letting you have at it and experimentation and not being afraid to go ahead. If you're going to fail quickly, learn from it, but help, paint a vision to get other people to come along the journey with you. People want to do this. And so it's being a rallying cry to help everyone feel like they're going to be part of the team, part of that heroic team that makes a much brighter future for everybody in your organization.
Well, we know that it's not just a complicated world we live in today. It's very complex. We have 6 different generations, from Gen Alpha up to the boomers that we have to work with. Longevity is another element. If you got Dr. Ken Dykewalt and the age wave, we're all going to live way longer than we ever thought. The MIT Age Lab is telling us how to navigate that and stay healthy. But I think the common denominator here is the culture that you're talking about, and caring needs to be part of that culture. I think the quote I heard was that culture is what happens when management isn't in the room. It sounds a lot like ethics as well. Ethics is what you do when nobody's watching like that. But I've got to say, this currency of caring is going to be spent well in the future. Thank you very much for what you're doing. I think that everybody's going to learn more and be more concerned about their perspective on caring. So it's been a delight to have you today on the Business of Healthcare podcast.
Oh, it's so fun to talk to you, Bob. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Business of Healthcare podcast. Join us online at businessofhealthcarepodcast.com to find episode links, notes, and more. Be sure to subscribe to the Business of Healthcare podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. To learn more about the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, go to jundal.utdallas.edu and then search under the Center and Institutes tab on the navigation menu. Also, we want to hear from you. If you'd like to provide feedback, make suggestions for future guests or show topics, or just want to get in touch with us, email us at healthcarebizpodcast@utdallas.edu. Biz is spelled B-I-Z. And let us know how we're doing. I'm your host, Dr. Bob Kaiser, with the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, where we're leading change by changing how we lead.